Good morning and good morning to your cherished viewers who are watching us this morning. First and foremost, I have had the opportunity, to watch on the international media relative to what is currently happening between the U.S., Israel, and Iran, relative to the war, as you may put it, currently that is ongoing. And I've had a concern relative to the fact that there's been a lot of reasons that have been assigned to what is actually happening. And some of the view that, like my brother Elvis alluded to, the fact that fast forward the United States of America is gradually losing its, its economic power. I mean, relative to the fact that now you have China is an emerging force, you have Russia, and basically you have China, which basically rely on Iran for its supply of oil. And for that matter, the U.S. is basically trying to play the usual politics to ensure that
stabilize the region.
Absolutely, which eventually will affect China. I've also had a concern where I read a particular piece where somebody posed a question that is it worth, being an ally of Russia and being an ally of China? Because anytime any of the ally is an attack by the U.S., I mean, they find it difficult to come to their aid. But whatever it is, I mean, there's something at stake. Whatever it is, all of us are involved in it. I've continued to say that pollution, they say, is localized, but the effect of that pollution is global. I mean, the essence of it is whatever that happened, like my brother alluded to, Ghana is not an island. And I have heard our colleagues from the NPP, I mean, when you go to various social media platforms, I mean, continue to highlight the fact that is the NDC going to say that what is happening in the Gulf region, is it going to affect our country? What I would just want to say is this. I believe President John Dramani Mahama, I believe the NDC government, I believe the managers of the economy, I mean, believe the fact that whichever way, Ghana, one way or the other, might be confronted with external shocks. And it's one of the reasons why when you listen to the State of the Nation address, I believe that will be coming to President Mahama highlighted some of the things as a country that we have to do so that we'll be self-sufficient and self-dependent. I mean, that's why he keeps on referencing the Accra Reset agenda. I mean, basically what it means is this. As Africa, we need to put our destiny into our own hand, so that we don't get to a point anytime our economy is on the verge of reviving or our economy is on the verge of being on a sound footing, that we are hit by certain external forces that end up impoverishing the masses. So relative to what is happening, I believe by now the Minister for Energy, I believe that now the economic management team, all of us will take into consideration what is currently happening within the Gulf region, and we'll be able to put all the measures in place to ensure that it doesn't translate in imposing on our citizen, I mean, any form of suffering. And I will not sit down here and discount the fact that what is happening within that region will not affect Ghana. It will definitely affect Ghana once we are a country that largely depends on oil. I mean, like COPEC have actually hinted this. But I mean, the position that the NDC took relative to the issue about the Ukraine-Russia war was the fact that I think it was over-amplified by our colleagues from the NPP. I mean, to the extent that sometimes, even, excuse me to say, on a lighter, to the extent that even it got to a point when somebody is suffering from, excuse me to say, erectile dysfunction.
I'm not sure about that, but it was a reality, right?
No, what I'm saying is this. You see, I mean, we have sat on TV with a couple of our friends from the NPP. And see, I mean, even if there are cases somewhere, there are robbery cases somewhere, you have NPP communicators quoting the Russian-Ukraine war. So that's why I'm saying that at a point in time... I didn't see But I'm telling you, I've sat on TV with a couple of them, and at a point in time, even when there was a bit of lapses with respect to the free HHS, when you ask them what is the reason why there's problem associated with free HHS, they'll quickly just make references to the Russian-Ukraine war. So we think that
the reasons, as alluded to by the economic management chair at the time, but I remember when he took time to address the issues around the economy, what he described as a double whammy. So I remember him talking about the Ukraine war, I remember him talking about the energy sector debt, I remember him talking about the banking sector crisis, and I think there was one more that has killed me. But to say or allude to the fact that everything was blamed on the Russia-Ukraine crisis is not really the position of the New Patriotic Party.
The only reason why the issue about Russia-Ukraine crisis, right, and COVID became so profound in the era of the NPP was the fact that that's one of the excuses they continue to give. But you see, what is more important, you remember, when Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia was then vice presidential candidate of the NPP, when we were told that he's the economic wizard, organized a series of lectures. And you remember that at a point in time we were hit globally about some of this external shock. And one of the things Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia said that, listen, I mean, at that point in time, you have Ivory Coast, right, who was also basically part of the global shock, but they were doing well. And Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia made a statement to the effect that he doesn't understand the reason why the external shock that the NDC was alluding to at that time have bypassed Cote d'Ivoire and hit Ghana. So he doesn't understand that analogy, and the reason why we shouldn't blame any external factors relative to the economic meltdown at that time. So it's only prudent and it's only justifiable for us to also make reference to some of the statements he made in the past.
So the vice president at the time in July 2022 said the country was hit by a quadruple whammy. So he was referring to the Ukraine-Russian war, of course, COVID, and I'm not sure you'd want to discount the effect of COVID, where globally airlines were shutting down, everything came to a standstill. He also talked about the energy sector debts, which he accuses the NDC of being a major part of, and finally the Ukraine war, right? So there were factors that all came together, not necessarily only the Russia and Ukraine.
No,
maybe very briefly on that.
With respect to COVID, I mean, we were told, I mean, the finance minister himself, when he appeared before the August House, I mean, he told the good people of this country that the amount of revenue that was raking as a result of COVID was around 30 billion plus. The Auditor General came out and said the amount of money that was spent with respect to COVID was 11 billion. So, I mean, even people continue to talk about the fact that COVID in itself was a blessing because of the amount of money that we got as a result of COVID. So that particular argument, it fall flat because the revenue that was raking relative to COVID, which was 30 billion plus, and the amount of money that we spent relative to COVID. So when you do the juxtaposition, you deduct the amount of money that we got, the expenses. It cannot be a justification that COVID is what actually put the country in that mess. And already there was, the indicators have shown that even prior to the onset of COVID, the country was already on the verge of collapse, right? And one thing that is more important is this. What the NDC did at that time was basically play back the soundbite of Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia, when he was then the vice presidential candidate of the NPP, when he organized a series of lectures, economic lectures, some at Central University, when he said he doesn't understand the reason why. The excuses that the NDC was giving at that time relative to some of the global shock that we encountered, he said it was not tenable because he doesn't understand the reason why Ivory Coast, who is our neighbor, right, are not suffering from the same, what do you call it, global meltdown. But sure. Ghana is suffering from it. And for that matter, that analogy is not tenable. So basically, we just play back his own words. That you cannot approbate and reprobate. You cannot tell us that something that happened during the NDC era, that he said that it didn't affect Cote d'Ivoire, but it affected Ghana. And for that matter, that argument is flawed. That was the same thing we did.